All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this OpenVerse webinar. I am Lapo Fioretti from IDC, and I will be your moderator for today. Today, we're going to look at the key requirements for a sustainable European virtual world ecosystem, looking at partners, ethical legal requirements, the ecological framework, and governance. Before jumping into today's content, the usual housekeeping. This webinar will be recorded and the recording will be distributed in the next days. Only the speakers can use the camera and mics and share the screen, but please feel free to put your question in the Q&A box as we will have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of the webinar. This is the third and last webinar of a series of 3 that you might have participated in. Here you see the previous one, and you will see in the chat the links to access to the recordings of those. So we had one on the state of the market of virtual worlds in Europe, looking at the adoption of virtual worlds technologies. And then we move on to the concrete application, looking at use cases and a demonstration case created by the OpenVerse project and OpenVerse consortium. And today we're looking at the ethical legal requirement and governance side to conclude this cycle. This is today's agenda. We have, I will introduce the speaker in a second, but we will have our partner BDVA looking at the OpenVerse ecosystem and national initiatives. Then the University of Galway will look at the and describe the technological framework. And then finally, Trust IT will provide a walkthrough of the OpenVerse Observatory Sandbox initiative. And then, as mentioned, we will have a Q&A session at the end. So do put your question in the Q&A box. As I mentioned, happy to introduce you the speakers that you will see in a second. So we have Abdul Wahid from University of Galway, Mattia Trino from BDVA, and John Favaro from Trust IT. We will also see some other speakers popping up during the Q&A session as they are the subject matter expert. Without further ado, I'd like to hand it over to Mattia for the first part, looking at OpenVerse ecosystem. Mattia, over to you.
Yes. Hi, Lapo. It's a pleasure for me to be here and welcome everyone. My name is Mattia Trino. I work for the Big Data Value Association, and in the OpenVerse project, we are dealing with the ecosystem. And with the next slides, I wanted to show you what we have done in terms of like creating an ecosystem, maintaining it, and the strategies that we took when building this, and it could be useful for everyone then to replicate and to understand who's out there in Europe, and and you can like follow some sort of like similar methodologies when you need to understand the overall European ecosystem. Basically, what are we doing? So the network of we created a network of collaborations with national initiatives and also European and international initiatives, programs, as well as organizations and different bodies. All of them are which are, let's say, dealing to a certain extent with virtual worlds and their uptake, either at national level or at the European level, and also the international level. All these, of course, serves us for different purposes, such as one of them, you can see them at the bottom, is to create the OpenVerse technological framework, which will be presented by some other colleagues. So why we are doing that? Because we want to build synergies. We want to reinforce the links with different technological areas. So, as you know, virtual worlds are applications, and therefore, like, they have different layers of technologies that need to interact together, and that is why we thought that, like, indeed having a very variegated ecosystem is, of course, needed and is paramount for different actors from different technological areas to talk to one another and to understand one another. And also different infrastructures and different disciplines. So it's a very heterogeneous ecosystem what we are looking at, and how we have done it is by identifying different um, core areas. We did a lot of outreach. We did a lot of bilateral and combined workshop, and with that, we managed to create the critical mass needed to call it an ecosystem. These we have done this also to share the knowledge between all those parties involved, and to co-create some of the assets, such as, as I said, the technological framework, and many others. So how did we started? The starting point, and this may be interesting for everyone who is looking at the ecosystem, is that we took a document from the European Commission that back in 2021 defined the building blocks for creating virtual worlds in Europe. And those are technological building blocks, as you see them here on the left-hand side of the screen. And basically, by following this approach, we thought that it was useful for strategic alignment, so that these ensured that to frame all those projects, policies, the funding priorities, and that are all built in a way to understand what virtual worlds required. Therefore, like, those was a bit our taxonomy, and this was also giving us the possibility to facilitate the collaboration and to map and engage those initiatives by clustering them according to those building blocks. And so it was a taxonomy. It was a way to categorize the different actors or stakeholders or initiatives. So basically, that's what we have started creating. When we did that, like the first mapping of European initiatives in this case. So those are initiatives that are not private companies, but rather organizations that are dealing with one specific technology or more, and that are functional to the creation of virtual worlds and belong to one of those building blocks. So you can see here on the vertical schema, the on this. I don't know if you see my pointer, but basically, when you see AI, IoTI, application layer, blockchain, and so on, these are the building blocks, right? And then in the last part of this network, you can see the actual actors. On the right hand side, then it's basically the same representation, but on a circular representation. But again, looking at exactly the same type of building blocks and stakeholders. So you can see that these can be expanded by a lot, and this shows the complexity of the ecosystem of virtual worlds. Then what we did also is that there are some specific actors in Europe that are really sort of like bridging the research and the innovation field, like the more like the industrial side and the policy side. Those are the public-private partnerships, and public-private partnerships are established by the European Commission, and they are, as I said, like bridge the industry, the practitioners, the researchers, and innovators with the European Commission, so the policymakers and the ones that are investing money to fund this research and innovation in Europe. Therefore, they are providing the content to the European Commission in order to shape the calls for proposals. What we did is that we have identified those public-private partnerships that belong to one or more of those building blocks I showed before, and we analyzed their strategic research and innovation agendas. So the 3S or 3DAS, the D stands for development, but it's almost the same type of document. And we looked at all of those and extracted all the references they may have to the application of virtual worlds. Therefore, we wanted to have this point of contact with them when it comes to to talk to them for everything that concerns virtual worlds and their efforts in influencing the European Commissions and their call for proposals. And we spotted that there's quite a lot of potential in those. So even though it cannot is maybe is not immediate, the link between is not under the sunlight, so to say, the link between the one of those organizations and virtual worlds. When looking at those documents, you can actually spot links and important parts that could be useful for the ecosystem and for the development of virtual worlds in Europe. Then, why we have been doing this? One of the reasons, as I said, is to create the technological framework, because we needed to put all those organizations dealing with the different technologies together to talk to one another, and we wanted to level this up and understand how those different core technologies are interacting with one another, and also looking at aspects of infrastructure, middleware services, application domain, and governance and ethics. I think my colleague Abdul will talk about this more in detail after. Another thing that we've been looking at in the creation of the ecosystem is the national initiatives. First of all, we needed to come up with a categorization of that. With a definition. For us, national initiatives are all those organizations in the format of associations, NGOs, technology platforms, or any other kind of structure that works on virtual worlds, on the topic of virtual worlds as a central topic, or with a dedicated working group. So those are also entities running collaborative projects at national level. So this is the key requirement, and can be either publicly or privately funded. This doesn't really matter. Those can also be skills development initiatives or any other initiative with different collaboration models that are working towards the uptake of virtual worlds at national level. We also included multi-country initiatives, but we couldn't find many of those really operating on virtual world. So basically, say that we started looking at the different member states, and we noticed that there are certain member states that have a lot of different initiatives. And so, for example, Germany is the one where we found the most, and going, let's say, eastwards, we found them a bit less. So we didn't find any for example, I know in Bulgaria, yes, there are some, but anyway, in Eastern Europe, there were a bit less, I would say. In terms of types of organization. And this was also interesting because it was showing us how the different member states of the European Union are following different strategies. There are some countries, for example, I can bring the example of Ireland, where there are more grassroots initiatives that are combining a few startups and enthusiasts, and that are sort of promoting the uptake of virtual world technologies in this way, from a grassroots perspective. There are certain other countries like Finland, for example, or Austria, where there are national agencies or even ministries that are in charge of implementing a national strategy for the uptake of virtual worlds. So you can see that sometimes are bottom-up, sometimes are top-down types of initiatives. And all these, again, created a very nice and interesting ecosystem that helped us to go a level lower and look at the national states. This is my my last slide. So we have added everything in all these in the observatory. I think the part of EU initiative still needs to be implemented, but the part on national initiative is there. There are a bit more than 100 of those initiatives there. So this will be this is a very useful repository for you to start exploring the ecosystem that OPENVERSE has created. So with this, I hope I was in time, and I really thank you. And if you have any question, I will be happy to answer. Unfortunately, I will have to leave a little bit earlier, but yeah. So thank you for the opportunity to present this.
Thank you very much, Mattia. Great presentation. We'll direct to you any questions that we might receive, even if you will not be here. With that, I would like to hand it over to Lukasz and Abdul from University of Galway, where they will, explain to us and present to us their technological framework. Lukasz, Abdul, over to you.
Hello, everybody. We're gonna have a split conversation here between me and Abdul. I'm currently in California for Augmented World Expo. So yeah, it's almost 2 a.m. and I will start the presentation, and then presentation will be led by my colleague Abdul. So without further ado, I hope this works to switch the slide. Does it work? I'm clicking. Does it slide? Oh, okay.
Yep.
So the OPENVERSE technological framework is one of the core assets of the OPENVERSE project, and deals with various aspects of virtual worlds. In particular, as a whole, it's an instrument to helping transitioning from fragmented technologies to a unified human-centric ecosystem in Europe, basically to help the ecosystems to thrive in Europe, right? So that's kind of the main mission in line with the project objective. And technological framework is the one to stratify different aspects of virtual worlds in one single place. This is a graphic that was already presented by Mattia. It's a very high level and a bit more artistic view on the technological framework. However, I'd like to recall it just for practicality so that you can see this key components, which includes core technologies, infrastructure, middleware services, application domain, and finally governance and ethics, which are in the core of this very webinar. So there is a high relevance of this material to presentations today. And moving forward, so this is a bit more detailed view of the framework, where we can see different layers. We can see functional views, user views, the virtual world tech stack, and then different views in terms of infrastructure and core technologies. This is kind of our working framework, and there is a lot of expansions to this core framework, and you'll see some of that in a second. But I would like to stress, I would kind of zoom out first for you to better understand what we're talking about in terms of 5 dimensions of OPENVERSE technological framework. We have core technologies, infrastructure, core global services, application domains, governance, ethics, and societal integration. So by the name, the number 5 is definitely in line with today's presentation, but also the core and global services, as we see in a second, are also very relevant in terms of the layers essential in that space, or tackling that space. And if we look at dimension 1, which is core technologies, we definitely would see artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is pivotal in terms of ethics and governance and the growing importance of those technologies as we move forward. And there is 2 aspects to it. So one is governance. So as we know, virtual worlds are being monitored, and until recently it was mechanisms which were implementing blended approach, where there were human reviewers and human moderators. So following same systems like we've seen in social media, also virtual worlds move forward toward more automated moderation. And that poses also all sorts of challenges. But also when you talk artificial intelligence, we also see, automated avatars and non-human players, so non-NPCs, that become more and more predominant in all kind of virtual systems, including virtual worlds. So there are definitely a lot of artificial intelligence here. So I'll try to move forward. If we talk about the infrastructure backbone, we definitely have cloud and edge. Oh, that's moving too much forward. Cloud and edge, we have 5G. Does it move back? Yeah, 5G, 6G, and all kind of knowledge graphs, which are responsible for data. In this case, definitely, again, monitoring and monitoring of network and monitoring of data is aspects of virtual worlds where relevant governance models need to be implemented so that we preserve security, we preserve privacy while ensuring maximum security and safety in those systems. So definitely these are layers to look at. And if I move forward, I just don't want to jump too fast again. No, does it move? So in terms of dimension 3, middleware and services, we see even more aspects in terms of ethics and governance and sustainability as well. When we talk about decentralized digital identity, and we actually discussed that in dedicated workshops before, where we discussed blockchain and similar technologies helping us implementing decentralized digital identity, which also now feeds towards the European wallet. On top of that, we have all kind of 3D assets and let's say creative content. Over there, the ethics apply to ethical distribution and copyright and respecting IP. So there is aspects to be considered in this dimension. And any kind of data processing as well, whether it's raw data or process data. Then in terms of application domains, this is where sustainability is very important because if we find relevant use cases for XR and for virtual worlds, that definitely will keep them thriving and will help European industry to grow. We can see a lot of good applications in smart manufacturing, smart cities, education, healthcare, financial sectors as well. The default applications have been in entertainment. However, there's expectation, especially in Europe, that actually more, let's say, enterprise cases like smart manufacturing, smart cities will lead the way to more sustainable virtual worlds. But it's not to be neglected that education and entertainment have been like one of the first application domains, and they're still very strong. And many tools have been used for remote education and training and are thriving. Therefore, these are important aspects. This layer is incredibly important to consider when talking about sustainability of virtual worlds. And then dimension 5 is literally dealing with governance, ethics, and societal integration. So here we can clearly see a need for value alignment, and that is between EU AI Act, GDPR, and other regulations that are in place and coming, digital rights and privacy. And when we talk about all of that, we discuss policy as a code. In the era of whiteboarding, this is more and more important to see how policies can be basically enforced through the systems, and ideally implement systematic governance so that no strong censorship or moderation is needed. Systematic governance should implement it organically. And in terms of ethics, we definitely talk here about accessibility and inclusion, not to forget, for instance, people who are visually impaired. So like immersive audio is very important, not to focus only on video, and other aspects to ensure that nobody's left behind. That's very important, as well as actual cognitive load management, which is often neglected. As we know, for instance, this very call is run on Zoom. There is this term introducing just during COVID called Zoom fatigue. And there's a lot of research dealing with that. We are actually still quite in the dark in terms of XR, in terms of evaluating the cognitive load management in XR technology. So that's something to be still updated and considered. So dimension 5 really taps into this. Okay, and if we look at a bit higher level stakeholder review from the perspective of ethics, governance, and sustainability, definitely a lot depends on humans because all technologies are made by humans for humans. So if we look at consumers, they would have specific requirements in terms of privacy and trust. That would be their paramount and strict GDPR adherence. While producers would be more interested in ensuring sustainability through interoperability, scalability, and making sure that their business models work. And then in terms of prosumers, they would be interested in openness and co-creation and digital rights as means of sustainability and ethical distribution. So there are different views and different needs to be addressed if we talk about different stakeholder groups, and that has to be considered. I'm almost through before I hand over to Abdul. I hope I'm good with time. So in terms of, again, the framework, we definitely want to see our framework facilitating the interoperability, and that's both at hardware and software level. And this comes with different responsibilities and different aspects, again, in terms of privacy, security, at hardware, software level. If we talk monitoring, if we talk data collection, that has to be all considered, and as well as what should be shared through open standards is still a challenge and something to think about. Also, like unified scene description formats and the very building blocks of universal virtual worlds, and how we integrate all these virtual worlds and ensure that we don't implement again walled gardens as we did with social media widely. And then in terms of differences, in terms of industrial and consumer realities tackled by our framework, there are certain differences, subtle differences, some of them more prominent, but definitely consumer worlds are more tasked with simulated content generation, entertainment, and moderation heavy environments. So again, in terms of ethics, how you ensure that you don't a bit similar issues like in social media, so free speech versus moderation and aspects of that, as well as preservation of GDPR, but while also promoting very civilized discourses online. This is all relevant to virtual worlds. If we talk about industrial cases, the focus is more on data synchronization, secure data synchronization as means of sustainable and effective use cases. So in terms of digital twins, we look more at predictive maintenance, real-time monitoring, and aspects, and by design, GDPR and physical security protocols that will ensure sustainability. Basically, if system is if system is breached, we lose trust. That's immediate problem of sustainability. So that's a paramount for for industrial reality, especially to like finances or heavy industries. That's very, very important. All right, the slides don't want to change. I'm almost through with my slides, but anyway, the point is that, ooh, it's jumping too much. Almost there. So as tools for our framework, we developed also additional guides and virtual worlds, the virtual worlds technological framework as a tool. So we try to make our outputs as accessible as possible. And we will be releasing smaller booklets and leaflets that help small medium enterprises to navigate this space effectively, dependable on their views. And as I mentioned before, that could be different based of the stakeholder view or consumer view, user view. And in respect to that, we are going to produce specified materials so that depending on where you are in this space and ladder, you can find relevant guidelines and what should be considered at each of the dimensions and different levels. So this is our mission, and yeah, we think that this is our blueprint for responsible innovation and sustainable innovation for virtual worlds in Europe. And on this, I would like to pass it to Abdul. Abdul,
Thank
you
you.
can take over from here.
I hope I'm audible. So, governance is one of the very important aspects for the European virtual worlds, especially through the technological framework that have been proposed. So, as we know that the virtual worlds have been moving beyond gaming, entertainment, education, industry, and commerce. However, the challenge is that it's no longer a technological problem or simply technological. So we need to ensure that these ecosystems are not only innovative and economically viable, but also trustworthy, transparent, and interoperable, as Lucas mentioned in detail, and are aligned with the human values also. This is why sustainability is not merely a technical issue. It's a fundamental governance challenge. And as highlighted previously, technology enables innovation, but governance enables sustainability. So to understand what needs to be governed, we first need to understand what constitutes a virtual world ecosystem. So the building blocks of any sustainable European virtual worlds ecosystem, it's a multi-layer ecosystem integrating technology, governance, identity, economy, and trust. And it includes infrastructure, interoperable mechanism, digital identity, and trust services. Also, the AI-enabled intelligent agents, virtual economies, digital twins, data spaces, and the governance framework, as can be seen from the technological stack that lies on the right-hand side of the slide. So rather than viewing the virtual worlds as isolated platform, we need to think of them as an interconnected socio-technical ecosystem where technology, governance, and economic values kind of coexist. So this broader perspective is very essential because governance challenges emerge across each layer of the ecosystem. As these ecosystems become increasingly complex, they begin to resemble something much larger than the technology platforms. So that's why we come to the governance. So why governance matters in the one of the very useful way to think about virtual worlds is as a digital societies. So just as a physical societies requires rules, laws, institution, property, rights, citizen, and functioning economies, similarly in virtual worlds require equivalent governance mechanisms. So interoperable acts such as roads connecting digital environments and digital identity and participation represents citizens. Regulations and compliance provide legal frameworks. So governance institutions provide accountability and also finally, so these virtual economies, they enable sustainable participation and innovation. And the key message here is that virtual worlds are no longer simply technical platforms. They are becoming digital societies that require governance structure similar to those found in the real world in the physical world. So once we view virtual worlds as digital society, a number of governance challenges immediately emerge, such as the ego. So, like our analysis over the time over the past years have identified the governance challenges that cut across virtual worlds ecosystem, starting from AI agents to platform governance. So, AI agents introduce questions around accountability, transparency, and explainability, and digital identity raises issues related to trust and or the user control. Similarly, the XR technologies collect highly sensitive behavior and biometric data, creating new leading to privacy kind of concerns. And similarly, when we talk about the digital twins, they introduce challenges related to the data integrity, sovereignty, and the access control. And finally, the virtual economies, they require the consumer protection mechanism for fair competition. So the question then becomes, how can these challenges be addressed in practice? So that's what motivated the development of the frame technological openverse technological framework, as Lucas mentioned in quite detail. So this integrated technological framework, yeah. Combines infrastructure, intelligence services, immersive technologies, and digital mechanism and the governance components. So this allows governance and technology to evolve together, and embedding kind of governance into the architecture is only the initial step, the first step. The next challenge is ensuring the ethical principles and the sustainability objectives are incorporated in design as well as can be seen from a uh, sorry the virtual worlds technology stack. So here, importantly, the governance related elements include the standards, ethics, intellect, IPR, trust mechanism, participation, and compliance. They are integrated across the stack rather than being isolated into a single layer. So this kind of demonstrates how technological and the governance requirements must evolve to support the sustainable virtual world. So while this technology stack illustrates components required to build virtual worlds, it's equally important to understand how these technologies interact with each other. So the framework uh, represents like the our broader vision for the virtual world and the Web 4.0. At the core are the enabling technologies, and these technologies are supported by the foundational infrastructure, including 5G, 6G connectivity, high performance computing. However, one of the most important aspects of this framework is the governance, ethics, sustainability, and the societal integration. And this includes multi-stakeholder governance models which align with the European values, of course, and the sustainable principles, privacy protection, and the responsible AI. So embedding governance into the architecture, as I said, is only the first step. So it's our goal is to ensure that these principles can be operationalized and applied consistently across the complex virtual environments, which leads us to the governance and the ethics and sustainability by design. This is one of the key contributions of the Openverse in as it recognizes the virtual worlds cannot be governed solely through technology, but governance must be embedded by in design. So the framework incorporates ethical AI, privacy, infrastructure, interoperable standards, and the multi-stakeholder governance model as well. So sustainability is equally is important. So which includes the energy efficient infrastructures and the green data centers, In other words, like governance is not an additional, it's a kind of a foundational design. So, however, implementing governance at a scale requires more than policies alone. So, stakeholders also need tools that help them navigate through complex regulations, standards, and the IPR frameworks, which leads us to the one of the our proposed graph rag, which is the to support the governance decision making. So we have developed a graph rag based governance assistant that the system integrates regulations, standards, policy documents, ethical frameworks, and IPR guidance into a structural knowledge graph like system. So by combining the knowledge graphs with the RAG, retrieval augmented generation, the system provides explainable evidence-based recommendations. So to make it short, so this is advanced. Sorry, this is our advanced governance system, which is supported by an expanding corpus where more than 100 curated documents, which go beyond the number 100, but including the policy papers, standards, technical specification, and socio-legal studies that have been collected over time. And then we enhance the relationship extraction, community detection, and ethical reasoning capabilities. And eventually, we through OpenVerse, so we propose this governance-aware technological framework, which demonstrated how GraphRag can support governance, intelligence, and decision making. So ultimately, the sustainable and virtual worlds will emerge when technology, governance, and ethics become a part of the same ecosystem architecture. So this is some example queries and their responses. So each response is backed by an evidence of papers, which has the evidence where from it is taken, how relevant it is, how accurate it is, and keeping in mind how these decisions are governed, the ethics and the RPR as well. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Abdul. Again, if anyone has any question, please add it to the Q&A box. We'll be happy to go back to it in a second. But before doing that, we have the last intervention for today. This is from John Favaro from Trust IT. John, I know that I promised a walkthrough before in my intro, but I know that before the walkthrough, you prepared a slide to explain what we're going to do.
Yeah, fine, thanks. We're going to stay on the topic of governance, actually. So anyway, we at Trust RT are the partner in OpenVerse responsible for the development and population of the Observatory, which was mentioned before. It's the platform that holds a marketplace of companies, the national initiatives that Mattia presented, and many of the major results of the project. And one of those results is the collection of regulatory sandbox initiatives that was assembled by Francesco Molinari, who's with us today, of our coordinating partner Lisbon Council as part of his research. Now, for those of you who don't know much about regulatory sandboxes, very briefly, they're safe environments where regulators and innovators work together under relaxed regulatory conditions so that innovations can get to market more quickly, and regulators can learn more about regulations, how they should be updated as a consequence of the new technologies. So let's go into the observatory now. I'll try and share my screen and get us in there. Okay, I think we should be in the observatory now. Do you see it? Yes. Okay. All right. So here we are in the regulatory sandboxes now. And one of the mixed reality regulatory sandbox pioneers has been Japan here, which already in June of 2018 had created a cabinet level of regulatory sandbox. And the sandbox has supported a variety of applications, including medical training, remote assistance, entertainment, and various digital services. And here you can also see the structure of each of the entries in the collection, a description of its purpose, the specifics of the actual mixed reality environment, the specific role of the sandbox, the results obtained, and this is especially valuable, a set of references if you wish to explore further. So now let's go to see what's happening in the United States. Some of the sandboxes focus on specific application areas. The American Food and Drug Administration's Digital Health Center of Excellence sandbox is exploring VR and AR in all kinds of health applications. Yeah, let's take a look. And it's not just medical devices. For example, they deal with chronic pain management and psychological health applications too. And note in the results section here that they are collaborating closely with the standards developing organizations to make sure that the results of the sandbox experimentation end up in standards and regulations, which is what this is all about. Remember what Abdul was just saying in the last speech. This is about governance in the end. So now let's go to Europe and let's take a look at France, for example. And if you look at France, you will see two initiatives in specific areas. And by the way, you should recognize these two areas because they were the first two ones that Luke presented in his talk. These two areas of healthcare and education tend to be the primary areas in which we're seeing specific XR sandbox initiatives today, at least. For example, let's go to Sweden now. Now, that's about virtual training for emergency services. Let's go inside and take a look. Now, here in the section on the role of the sandbox, you can see that setting guidelines for data privacy, especially regarding biometric data from VR interactions, is a typical activity, which is going to result in new ethical and privacy considerations. And by the way, while we're talking about this, dealing flexibly within the sandbox with the heavy European privacy regulations, like GDPR, which you've already heard about today, is one of the primary purposes of a sandbox, so that innovators can get their technologies off the ground within a reasonable time frame. So let's look at some other roles that sandboxes can play. So let's go now to Germany. Now, Germany has started several initiatives around its so-called Real World Laboratories Act. That's the Real Laborgesetz here that you see here. Now, here in the industrial metaverse pilot, you can see that the role of the sandbox is to temporarily waive regulations related to workplace safety, data handling, and equipment certification, allowing live testing in VR/AR integrations in real production context. And that is the heart of what a sandbox is about. Relaxing a set of potentially heavy regulations to allow testing of some innovative technology in real production context. So now let's look at a complicating factor in XR VR. Virtual worlds are actually a collection of technologies, and pretty much all of them are critical with respect to ethics and regulation. And so in this collection of sandbox initiatives, you're going to see individual technologies involved. For example, look right here at Norway. This initiative specifically names artificial intelligence within the overall initiative in VR-based job interviews. Because, for example, the AI Act declares that job candidates must be informed when AI is doing the assessment. Another critical technology in virtual worlds is blockchain. the foundational building block of digital identity, which we heard about in the technological framework. And that's why initiatives like this one in Poland within the European blockchain sandbox are in this collection. And as it says in the results section here, the sandbox is about a trusted digital infrastructure essential for the future of a digital identity in the virtual worlds. So, and another obvious example, therefore, of a related critical area that is financial services that can become the basis of payment systems in virtual worlds. And that's why you will find examples of this type of regulatory sandbox in the collection. So this collection is important because virtual worlds are a convergence of many different technologies, each of which has criticalities with respect to regulatory and ethical issues. So the best way to manage a regulatory sandbox for virtual world applications is by no means finalized yet. So the purpose of this collection is to support efforts to make important progress in this area. And the purpose of the observatory is to make this collection available in an actionable and searchable form that others can also explore and analyze, along with many other similar results of the OPENVERSE project, such as this study that on the current landscape of virtual worlds that was carried out by another OPENVERSE partner, the Politecnico di Milano, also with actionable graphics that you can use to explore various aspects of virtual worlds. So I would like to encourage all of you to register in the observatory. It's free, and become part of the community of we're more than 150 members now, where you can explore our assets and network with other members of the European Virtual Worlds ecosystem. There is a link here at the bottom of the page for you to create your profile and connect up. So I hope to see you there. That's all. Back to you, Lapo.
Thanks a lot, John. And yes, please do sign up to the observatory. I think it's a great as also Abdul put it, a great repository of a lot of key informations that we gathered as a consortium in the project. Thanks a lot, John. So before jumping to the Q&A, I wanted to quickly mention a final point. The OPENVERSE project is doing. As a project, we developed our own roadmap for open co-created virtual worlds, which is actually still open for contribution and feedback session. In the chat, you will also see a link to a survey which is open, and we are very much encouraging you to participate in the survey and add your inputs and feedback. And also, there will be a dedicated workshop held on July 2nd, where you can also participate and actually contribute to this activity. So that was the final point that I wanted to make. Now I want to go back to all the speakers that we had today and see if there are any questions. I see only one so far, and that's actually for John. But please, you still have time to put your question in the Q&A box. John, I'll start with you, and maybe also Francesco can contribute to this one, because it's about what you presented about regulatory sandboxes, and based upon the collection of the current initiative that you've shown in the observatory, what characteristics must a regulatory sandbox for virtual worlds, XR, VR exhibit in order to have the most chances of success?
Okay, I'll say first a couple of things about it. It's actually very difficult to construct a regulatory sandbox because there are many risks involved, and one of those is market distortion. Who gets to go into the sandbox? Sometimes the more well-connected ones get in, and they might get a competitive advantage. So you need a structured process over the entire lifetime, let's say, of the regulatory sandbox. And this is what Francesco has been working on within this. So I'll turn over the floor to you, Francesco, to say more about this problem of having a good, also a structured process within this the sandbox. Assuming you can get your mic open, yes.
Yeah, looking for the microphone. Okay, good afternoon or good morning, depending on the time zone. No, basically, I know it's hard to think about that and in the terms I'm presenting, but there is no single shape we can give to a regulatory sandbox. It is tremendously topic dependent, problem dependent, and also context dependent. So what we propose in the, by the way, congratulations, John, very nice representation of our background work. What we propose there is just a vertical slice. No, it's like cutting the cake and looking into the contents after cutting of what we're about to eat. And the focus there, it is very related with the talk about governance that the previous speakers presented, and there was quite a big interest in that. If you go through the examples presented, the kind of sandbox environment which is mostly represented in the list is the multi-country, or at least multi-regional environment, where a single public sector entity with all the superpowers of launching the sandbox, so naturally speaking, national governments, tries to create an environment which can be accessible to multiple entities, not necessarily coming from the same, let's say, territory, but more broadly country. If we think of that as a working analogy, what the governance system of the virtual worlds in Europe might look like. So for now, I will stop here, but if there are further questions, I will be happy to jump in.
Thank you, Francesco. There's actually a follow-up question here. It's actually dual, and maybe also Abdul and Lukasz can contribute here. So the first one is about what you mentioned, looking at the cross-regional, cross-country one. Because if we look at John's what John presented, we looked at country-specific, but here we're a European project looking at Europe as one. So in terms of regulatory sandboxes and having all of this fragmented view, is this an issue, or is this helping in some way? And then the second question, and then whoever wants to jump in can jump in. We talked a bit, especially in Lukasz and Abdul presentation, about AI. How has AI and the boom that AI experienced in the past a couple of years influenced the way in which we govern, so the way in which we approach governance for virtual worlds?
I may take the first question and leave to my colleagues to complete and answer the second one, if you don't mind. When I said multi-country, I also said multi-region, and it's not trivial, because if you think of the German case, which is one of the most, the less recent, let's say, or most developed ones, Germany is a country where there are federal states, like in the United States, which are having their own policies and hosting their own enterprises with autonomous goals of and initiatives on how to develop them further. What we are proposing instead is a mechanism that cuts across the regulatory borders, which is not always possible even at the level of a country like Germany with different specific regulations at federal state level. This is peculiar and also typical of the European analogy, so that's why we purposefully created the data set with examples that could not only show the variety of possible applications. If you see, there is little reference to video games and other applications that are normally associated with the name metaverse. We are deeply rooted in vertical domains, including healthcare, including education, and so on. But we also tried to propose a peculiar interpretation of the word sandbox. That's why I said there is no single takes-it-all concept, looking and trying to cut across the potential differences that may exist ultimately in the different regulations of the various member states. The European Commission, in the case of blockchain, as John showed, has already a very good example there of a sandbox that cuts across the European country borders. That is the way to follow also in additional examples and replicas, which may heavily contribute to the governance feature of the virtual world environment presented by my colleagues before, to whom I'm happy to pass the floor. Thank you.
Maybe I just add before I pass to Abdul, just very quickly, is that, in terms of AI, there is several facets to AI influencing governance, and definitely AI can, first of all, contributes to governance because there's new applications of AI to virtual worlds. So that could be NPCs, agents, online processing, compression, improving quality of audio, video. So there's so many aspects that AI contributes to. So therefore, there's more areas to govern, and these areas are only multiplying and exponential pace. On the other hand, AI can actually help governance, and like through RAG systems like you have or similar, where actually AI can help us to get a grasp and comprehend the multitude of data streams that are being created around virtual worlds. So that's my 5 cents, and I'll pass Abdul for the.
Yeah, thank you, Francesco, for the question. It's quite interesting because one of the most significant challenges that I believe virtual worlds face is this digital interaction, which you pointed out, because the dissemination across the borders, and that is no longer constrained by a physical border. Say, for example, in a single virtual environment, we may have a user in Germany which hosts a platform hosted in Ireland, and the service which is running from the US. So this kind of creates a question regarding the jurisdiction applicable law, or the IPR rights. And traditional governance models were largely designed around these national boundaries, whereas the virtual worlds operate across multiple legal and regulatory regional regions simultaneously. One is that. Another is the AI moderation. Is like, say, for example, there is a user that enters a virtual event or a virtual world from Ireland, and then AI kind of moderation system that kind of automatically removes their content. So the platform is the operator is based in another country. So the user may ask why my content was removed, or which rules were applied, or can I appeal the decision. So the governance mechanism must therefore provide that transparency and accountability across the jurisdiction. So rather than proposing a single global governance framework, so we kind of promote, that's why I mentioned in my presentation as well, interoperable governance framework. So we promote the interoperability for technology, and we also need interoperability for governance. So which means common standards, common governance principles, and shared trust frameworks, and the compliance approaches. And second is that governance must be controlled by a single platform or country. I mean, it cannot be controlled by a single sake. We, as an Irish university, we cannot control that platform or the country. So the stakeholders should need to include like the governments, regulators, industry, SMEs, researchers, and the citizens. And that is the that's why I call it in my presentation as governance by design. So the requirement should be embedded in the architecture itself, which we have tried to do. So example, it includes the identity management or the consent, data provenance, and the trials and the policy enforcement. And that's how the our knowledge base, the graph rag that we proposed supports. It is important because different countries and regions may have different regulations. They may have different standards or the requirements. So this graph rag, this AI in other sense can help us navigate through these complexities, and by connecting the regulation, the standards, policies, and across the multiple jurisdictions, not just in one. So this is the our European perspective is that the EU is actually in a strong position to lead in this area. So because we already have experience managing the governance across multiple countries through GDPR, Digital Service Act, and AI Act, and Data Act, and a few more acts, just I'm not able to record. So these initiatives kind of demonstrate how common governance frameworks can operate across different national contexts while respecting the local legal system. I hope I answered the question. Yeah.
Definitely, Abdul. Thanks a lot. I don't see any more questions. So with that, I'd like to thanks a lot all the speakers who participated today and contributed to this great webinar. And thank you also to the audience for attending and posing your question. Thank you very much.